Good morning. My name is Amy Susan. I'm with Missouri Enterprise, the state's MEP Center. Today we will be discussing a workforce development program that we call Basics of Manufacturing. It is essentially to create a pipeline of talent for manufacturers that are hiring entry-level positions, and as we will find out later, beyond, hopefully promoted to additional positions available. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Again, Missouri Enterprise, we are funded partially by NIST, and that is a division within the U.S. Department of Commerce. And this funding enables us to serve companies like yours in a variety of ways, including industry certifications, technology implementation, workforce development, continuous improvement, workplace safety, growth plans, and much more. And in order to maintain this federal funding, we're required to report on the number of companies that we work with. So we are impact driven. I know Jamie's going to go a little bit more into that. He's our area business manager for the northwest side of the state. So even events like this and webinars, NIST wants to know how we're doing. So at the end of the event, right before the question and answer, I'm going to go ahead and kick off a quick poll. It's just 5 questions, very easy. It'll take you maybe 20 seconds to answer, followed by a brief SurveyMonkey link that we'll send you. And then Jamie again will go over that survey and how it's going to work in 6 months. So again, without further ado, we'll go ahead and kick it over to Dale Graves. He is our presenter today, as well as our instructor for this workforce development class, again called Basics of Manufacturing. So with that, I'll go ahead and kick it to you, Dale. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome, everybody. So what we're going to talk about today, we'll go through a brief introduction, just me and Jamie, tell you a little bit about both of us. We'll go through the background of the program and give some details of how it came to be. We'll have a slide on, show you who all the team members are that are involved in the program. We'll go through the dynamics of the program and understand, give you a little understanding of how it works. We'll get a brief overview of the class material and what I go through when, what the students go through for the 4 days of class material. We'll talk about a few success stories and some of our more successful classes we've had around the state. We have a couple of people on the call that are going to give kind of their testimonials, one from the workforce development side and one of our manufacturers that have hired some folks from the class. And if there's any people, when we get to that portion, if there's anyone else that, you know, has anything to say that's been through it from the other job centers, you're more than welcome to chime in. We'll go a little over the cost of the program and how that works. And then lastly, we'll kind of just discuss who benefits from the program. And it is pretty much, as Amy put on the webinar emails, it's a win-win for everybody. So, and then we'll just wrap it up with questions and discussion and any questions you might have or items you might want to discuss. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. There's Jamie and I. My name's Dale Graves, like we said. I wanted to put this information on the webinar so that you will have our, you know, if you have any questions after this, feel free to call or email Jamie or I. We'd love to answer any questions you've got. I've been with Missouri Enterprise approximately 2 years. Next month will be 2 years for me. Prior to that, I've got 20 plus years in the manufacturing industry or whatever, but primarily in the ammunition industry. I worked at Lake City for 14 years, and I worked for Federal Cartridge and some other ammunition companies. But so I have a lot of operations experience, engineering. I might have an engineering degree, but I did a lot of operations and program management in the ammunition industry. So that's a little bit about me. With that, I'll hand it over to Jamie, and Jamie can tell you guys a little bit about himself and Missouri Enterprise.
Thank you, Dale. And yes, to reiterate a little bit of what Amy said, this is a great program, and it benefits a lot of different organizations. So thank you all for jumping on this webinar. And we've been trying to promote it throughout the state for a little over, a couple of years now. But yeah, my name is Jamie Quell. I'm the area business manager for Missouri Enterprise, which means I cover everything from North Kansas City all the way to the Iowa border and about the center of the state. Missouri Enterprise is a unique organization. So each state has a, quote, Missouri Enterprise, or what we would call part of the national MEP network. In other words, we're funded by the Department of Commerce, and our whole goal is to create impact on manufacturing in that particular state. So Amy also mentioned I also mentioned we're impact-based, which means that once we do a project, whether it's job training or we come in and do a certification or help with a grant, whatever we do, we ask for a survey, which we will at the end of this. Now, it's different than most surveys. This one actually has a huge impact. So not only do we ask for a survey at the end of a major project, but 6 months later, the national organization will email the main contact at your organization and say, okay, now that you've had a chance to digest this project, what was that impact? Did we create jobs, save jobs, increase profits, or increase the efficiencies at your business? So that's good for you, because we have to do a good job with everything that we do to get that impact. And that's how we're funded. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody on how we're funded based on the impact we have for you. Like I said, we're a national organization. So some of the projects, even if we can't do it with our staff in-house, we have a national network that we can dip into and use those resources. So anyway, in a nutshell, that's it. We don't really have a menu list of items. We solve headaches. So this is one of the biggest headaches that has been occurring in the nation, really, is how do we find good people? So this is a good program to get people trained into manufacturing that wouldn't have otherwise had that ability. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Dale.
All righty. Well, we'll move on then. So we recognized, as Jamie said, the needs of our manufacturing clients, and they need people, right? And that's been one thing we hear the most from our manufacturers is they can't get enough people, and they can't get people that stay, and they can't, they need the retention is always a problem, and this and that. So people aren't staying long, or they're leaving early or quitting or whatever. And that's been a constant theme for a while since I started at Missouri Enterprise. We dealt with it at the places I worked, but I didn't realize how spread it was, not only in Missouri. It's what we hear from all our MEP partners around the United States. So it's not an uncommon theme. So NIST is who our federal partner. They recognize this problem, this need. So they came up with funding to help address this issue. When they came to us with the funding, they said, here's what we want to do. So we came up with a proposal to offer this basics of manufacturing program at career centers across the state. So it's really it's an orientation, I call it. I wish we would have had an orientation like this when I was working in the ammunition industry. When we were mass hiring, something like this would have been great. And you can cater it to, you obviously cater it to your facility, but this is just a very good basics overview of all the things that happens in the manufacturing world. So we came up with that. The funding is a match with it's a match grant with WIOA. So it's a 1-to-1, and we'll go over the cost. Towards the end, I go over the cost and how all that works, but we came up with the cost and all that and started advertising with the job centers and started having these courses. So that's kind of the background of how it came to be. NIST came up with some funding. All of us knew that there was a need out there for people, and this is how the program originated. The team members, I wanted to make sure everybody, NIST, I already, talked about, they are providing the funding, and our federal partner. The job centers, the Missouri Job Centers, we team with them and execute the program. They recruit the students in local companies. We help mainly with the local companies, but they recruit the students. that want to move into the manufacturing field, want to learn and go through the course. Our manufacturers, clients, they need the people, right? So they're the ones that we're going to get there on Friday. We'll go through the course week and how that all works, but they're the ones we get there Friday for the interviews to interview all the folks. I put the Department of Corrections on here because we're working, just recently I started working with Ken Chapman and that team. We want to offer this program to recently released folks that have just gotten out of prison. And the goal, we want to give them a path to employment, right? So if we get, 8 or 10 people that have just been released and we can get them through the course and then get companies, we have plenty of manufacturing clients that have no issue hiring people that have gotten out of prison. So a lot of them have even voiced that to us. So what we want to do is and we're looking to do one at the CSC in Hannibal with Kevin Knickerbocker. And with the COVID, it's kind of pushed that off a little. So we're trying to get, through the COVID and when can we do it and how does that look if we're going to social distance and this and that. Some of this course would be very hard to do virtually, the measuring and blueprint reading and stuff like that. It's very hands-on. So it really works best if I'm there and we're face-to-face with the students. The goal with the Department of Corrections would be to reduce recidivism, and provide the skilled workers to the manufacturers. So any questions on the roles and the team members that we're working with? All right. So this is the dynamics and how it works. We schedule a class with a job center. Or then in the case with Ken and Kevin, it'd be the CSC and Hannibal. But I usually try to schedule those, at a job center at least 4 weeks out, because that gives the job center time to advertise, recruit students. It gives us time, and Jamie and the ABM's time to talk to local companies to see who would be interested in interviewing on Friday. We give flyers to the job centers that explain the course, where it's at, the dates, it's all the information. So we make those up, give those to the job center to help them advertise. Then you see the third one down there, the job center recruits and signs up the students. So I know there's a lot that goes on in the background at the job center that, as far as signing them up and getting them enrolled. But the job centers have been very good about that. And then, as I said, we recruit the local manufacturers. Jamie's done a great job in the St. Joe area of getting the manufacturers that we have dealt with in the past with other projects or whatever, and getting them there on Friday. We try to do them, and Jamie can expand on this, but we have the class at that point. But the Friday, we'll go through that when we go through the next page. It kind of goes through the course, but the successful classes, we've had the right amount of students and the right amount of manufacturers there. So we try to balance that. If you have 4 students, you don't want to have 10 manufacturers show up to interview them, So we try to balance that and make sure it's a good mix. Is there any questions on the dynamics or how that works? Because the next slide, I will go through how the 4 to 5 days go, or the 4 days of course and the 5th day interviews. So this is what it looks like. The meat of the course. We have Monday. I try to start out with professionalism, the soft skill stuff, communication and teamwork. In the professionalism portion, I stress attendance. One of the things we hear most from our manufacturers is that attendance is a problem. One of the things they have to deal with. So I stress that. I want them to be there on time and be there every day for the week. And that's one thing that the manufacturers that interview on Friday really like about this course, because the people that get through it and get the certificate of completion at the end, You know, they've shown the initiative to go through 4 days of training and show up every day. You know, if someone misses a day or half a day or whatever, I'm not going to give them a certificate probably because it's accelerated. We're going through a lot of material in a 4-day period. So that day we go through, you know, professionalism, communication, and teamwork. The Tuesday it's all day blueprint reading, and we go through everything from the basics of the title block and these are the borders. Then we move into the different views: top view, right view, you know, left view. They do a lot of shading, and it really helps them understand the different views, which are lines and what the lines mean. And we get into tolerances, and then the more advanced part of the blueprint reading, and that's a all day, you know, blast of blueprint reading, I guess I'll call it. But they usually like that one. It's more hands-on. They get to do some coloring and stuff and shading, and it's not just me up there talking and teaching. So, and then the next Wednesday is measuring, and I really like that one too. I make sure everybody understands how to use a tape measure. We start out with the tape measure and make sure that they understand that. I was shocked to find out how many people don't know how to read a tape measure. But so we go through that. We talk about scales and how to read a scale. And then we move into more complex measuring where we use micrometers and calipers and actually do a quality exercise where they measure parts. They record their readings. Are they in or out of spec? Do they pass? That type of thing. And that's several hour exercise. So they really understand if they go to a manufacturer and get hired and they've got to check their parts or check their product and measure and fill out a paperwork, you know, it's not going to be foreign to them after going through this. So, and then Thursday we go through lean manufacturing and problem solving. And that's, if you're into manufacturing, you should have heard of lean. And this really gives them an overview of the terminology and the concepts and everything that goes along with the lean manufacturing. And then problem solving is just really going through the structured kind of Six Sigma and structured methodology of solving problems. So, and then after 4 grueling days of that, we get to Friday and we make a pretty big deal out of the certificates. I like to reward them, and you know, I call them up one at a time, shake their hand, they get their certificate of completion. We usually take pictures, have donuts, whatever, but we kind of celebrate that they made it through the course. And while I'm doing that, Jamie's setting up the manufacturers with the interviews, and I'll kind of let him expand a little bit on how that goes from a manufacturing perspective on the Friday.
Yeah, so first of all, we partner with the Job Center on who are the key manufacturers in that particular area that are looking for positions to fill, right? So we want to find manufacturers that are not necessarily always looking for people, but have a healthy supply of entry-level positions, because that's really what we set an expectation for, is that you're going to be interviewing for an entry-level manufacturing position. That's not necessarily where it goes to, but keeping that in mind, we want a good proportion, and we work with the Job Center on, you know, maybe some companies are looking for 20 people, or ongoing, just always looking for quality people. So 4 companies is a good number, even if we end up with 4 candidates, although that's kind of disproportional. I'd say on average, we get 8 candidates finish the class and then 4 or 5 companies. Ideally, we would love to have 20 candidates go through the course and maybe 8 manufacturing companies, because not every employee is going to want to hire at or interview at every manufacturer. And for that matter, even though some manufacturers have said, hey, I'll hire everybody that goes through this course. Well, maybe not, because some of them may have already worked at your location or don't fit something within the qualifications. So on that Friday, it's best that we set a schedule, whether it's me that does it or the ABM in your area or the Job Center. Job Center probably would at least be able to give us some good advice on, having a separate room for each of the different interviews or each of the different companies that are doing interviews. And then we don't want to take too much time on the interview process, because this is really, they've gone through the course, their attendance is good, but a quick, depending on how many candidates there are, maybe a 20-minute interview process. And what we say too is, if you like this candidate, then go ahead and invite them back to your plant on, the following week, and then you can go through the process there. Some of the manufacturers will say, hey, we like what you've done. You've gone through the course. We're going to make you a job offer. And what we try and do too is to tell every candidate to interview with every company, because of course, a lot of these potential candidates will talk to each other and say, well, my cousin worked over here and they didn't like it. Well, that's going to be different for you. It's a different experience for everybody. And this might be the best job for you. It might be a different position. So we try and relay all of those things. But in a nutshell, we try and get a good schedule on Friday. I usually do a quick overview of what we had for candidates and, to the potential employers, and just to show them the book that Dale teaches out of, and just answer any questions. And then from about 9 to noon, we try and go through all the candidates and give them a chance to interview with every company.
Yeah, and the one thing I want to reiterate on this is, are they experts? When they go through this, are they experts on any of the subjects? No, they're not experts. But when they get hired by a manufacturer, this is not a foreign language to them. It's a great orientation to just any manufacturing. So they feel more comfortable when someone comes up to them and they say, you got to gauge your parts. They've done a whole exercise on gauging parts. Or if they get on a team and they're going to do a lean project or a 5S, they've heard about all that. So it really helps to me, it just makes them more comfortable going into a manufacturing job. So if there's no questions on the course content, I will move on. These are just a few I wanted to put these on here. We have more, but these were the bigger classes and the ones that we had really good company to student ratios. And so Sykeston, you can see down in the southeast portion there that we had 16 of 16 hired. That was our biggest class. I did, after having that class, I always had the questions of how many is the max. Well, after doing that one, I did put a limit of 20 because with a lot of the material, the more you have, the longer it takes, especially with measuring and blueprint reading. So after having 16, I thought, well, man, we could probably squeeze 4 more in there and get it done. So we do max it out at 20. That hasn't been a problem yet. We usually come in, what normally happens, we have, maybe 15 to 18 sign up and maybe 12 show up, or whatever. So it's anywhere in that ballpark around, 6 to 12 is a good number. You can see Joplin, we had very good, we had 6 of 6 and 11 of 12 out of Joplin. And then St. Joe has been our most recent, the last 2 classes we've done, and they've been very successful with 7 of 8 hired in December. And then March, we had all 8 get job offers. So it was, it's been very successful up there. There's a good, if you think of those areas, there's a lot of manufacturing, we have, and they need people. So those are the Joplin and St. Joe have been very successful with regards to, people, like I said, the manufacturers to student ratio. Those are just I wanted to go through those. Some testimonials. So we have Lisa Hostetter and Sandy Duncan on here, and they offered to just tell a little bit from their perspective and share their feelings about the program. Lisa is the executive director of the Northwest Workforce Development Board, and she has the St. Joe job center, and we've had our last 2 classes there. So Lisa, if you want to tell us a little bit about the program from your perspective and the job centers. I know Janice couldn't be on here because she's tied up in a meeting or whatever. Janice is the supervisor at that job center, but Lisa offered to talk a little bit.
Thank you so much, all. I want to say, first of all, you don't see a picture of me because I'm not nearly as handsome or beautiful as the rest of the panelists, so I chose to lock my camera. But thank you all for having me. And I'm really, really passionate about the work of Missouri Enterprise in these basics of manufacturing classes. I can tell you, and as Dale showed on the previous slide, the results and success stories, as most recent class locations, you saw we had 8 of 8 in our March class, 8 individuals, 8 completers, 8 hired. In the December class, we had 7 of 8. And I'll tell you, the reason it wasn't 8 of 8 in December is we had an individual who wasn't fully honest about his background. So had nothing to do whatsoever with the coursework, with the rigor, nor with the desire for employers to hire individuals. I want to provide a bit of background as far as the Northwest region. We are very much manufacturer driven. We have our primary industry is manufacturing. We have ag, of course, and healthcare. But I have in particular a board member that serves on the Northwest Region Workforce Development Board who called me recently and said, we need manufacturing employees. She said, I have 100 staff members. I need 100 more. That's not uncommon in the Northwest region. The employers continually say to me as the director, what can you do to help us find workers? And I know, as Sandy Duncan will speak a little bit later, Daly's was a recipient of some of the individuals who went through the basics of manufacturing course in the St. Joe Jobs Center. One of the things that I do want to share with folks, whether Workforce Development Board folks, Job Center staff, or employers on this webinar, the coordination between the Mo Enterprise staff and the Workforce Board and Job Center staff is critical. And I'll be real honest and say I was a skeptic early on. I didn't want to add more workload to our Job Center staff. But we worked very closely with Jamie and Dale both, coordinating the classes. And they've been a delight to work with. I suspect they have colleagues around the state who are just as delightful and just as helpful as we work through. I want to tell you one of the things that I think was very helpful. I have a colleague from the Southwest Workforce Development Board on this webinar, and she was the one who said to me, make sure you provide meals for them. Some folks coming into the class will be driven or delivered, I'll say, to the classes and not have any means for transportation to get a lunch. We worked very closely then with Dale and Jamie and said, how can we make this happen? And we found a way. We found money to make it happen. So keeping folks in the building is key to the success of success and completion rates. I do want to say also for the Workforce Board staff and for Job Center folks, we found a way after the Missouri Enterprise Basics of Manufacturing courses to tie to the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act on the job training program. So if an individual graduated with a certificate, then we could connect them, and they connected themselves with support from Jamie in our region to the manufacturers, and then could extend that training opportunity with additional Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act funds. So truly, in my region, that was a great connector of the basics and then additional training that we could support with our federal dollars. So I just want to close by saying our next move, and I'm hoping that since I know Ken Chapman is on, I'm hoping that we'll be able to work with Department of Corrections. We have 3 correctional facilities in my region, and I know justice-involved individuals are more likely to remain in public and out of any additional justice involvement, if they have meaningful work. And providing this sort of training makes a difference for them, truly engages them, and it means that immediately after release and completion of this, what is truly 5 days of their new life, can have meaningful work. We all know also manufacturing is well-paying occupation and industry. So just wanted to give that testimonial for the work being done by Missouri Enterprise, and encourage any of the folks on this webinar to really seek out either Dale, Jamie, or Amy additional information. You won't be sorry you did it. Thank you for the opportunity, by the way, to speak.
Thank you, Lisa.
Wow. Thank you, Lisa. That was an incredible testimonial on so many different fronts, to really show the collaboration and the partnership, and that these training opportunities and courses really are driven by what the employer, what the manufacturing community needs. So if at any point we need to pivot or add in content, take away, Dale is just equipped to do that. So we're really blessed to have him on our team. And for Jamie to seek out those facts to find out what we need to do to modify. So Lisa, thank you so much again. And I know there were some questions about how to get started, how to contact with certain job centers. And I just sent a link to the WIBs, and that would be a good place for you to start to reach out to. And then again, connect with your job center from there. So thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Lisa and Amy. Sandy Duncan is a recruiting specialist at Daily Premium Meats, and like we said, that's in St. Joe, Missouri, and has been actually hired, I think, for both classes, I believe. But Sandy, I'll kind of tell your story about the program.
Well, I hadn't been the recruiting specialist here for very long, and I have a huge background in HR and recruiting, and I considered manufacturing a huge challenge for me, simply because of all the manufacturing plants we have here. We have the largest one right across the street from us, which they own part of us, but we're still in competition with them for people. So one of the best things I can say out of the whole program was just the seamless process that Jamie put us through, like, you know, keeping us up on everything that they were doing, the invitations to come and learn more about it, and then actual interview days and the process. And that process was amazing. There were very well-groomed people coming out of those classes that you don't normally see when you're in the interview process for someone for manufacturing. We have hired quite a few out of there. And I have somebody I want to talk about. His name's Tony Walker. He was in the program and he's a rock star. He started out, we hired him in entry level, and that guy he's already been promoted into our shipping and receiving department, which is one of the most sought after positions in our plant. And he's just doing a fantastic job. His work record prior to that wasn't so good. He was, you know, they call a job jumper. He couldn't settle anywhere, but I'm totally confident he has settled here. So I just want to thank them for the great job they did in getting that's the thing, it's quality candidates. So they come out of there with a little bit more quality than we normally see. So thank you all very much for that. And I see nothing but more promotions for Tony on the horizon.
That's good. That's good. That's a good news story. Like I said, it's a win-win most of the time, when at least from what we've heard from the manufacturers that have hired out of this course. So
we are also, you know, been in talks to do some maybe expansion. It's kind of on hold right now, but I'm fully confident that they're going to get, you know, keep this program going, and we're going to get some more people like Tony that can be rock stars in our future.
perfect.
That's great.
Expansion, right?
Thank you, Sandy, so much for sharing your personal experience, and we can't wait to for you to give us a call and let us know when your expansion continues on, and we can find ways to continue supporting you. We did have a question from Doug, who wanted to know what the retention rate was for these individuals. And I'm sending out, I'll just go ahead and provide my comment or my answer, and Dale may be able to speak about this, but because we just celebrated the inaugural year just last December, the long-term tracking mechanisms aren't necessarily completely there in place because it requires us to go back and check with all of our employers. But we can tell you that 72% of those individuals that go through the program are hired. Now, for most of those hired immediately or not hired immediately following their graduation on that 5th day, it's because of transportation issues or that they were not able to find suitable daycare or they're taking care of elderly parents. So there is still a barrier that is very real. So we do try to equip or at least educate our employers about that could be an issue. So again, the majority of those reasons why there wasn't that connection or that perfect match is because there were some other barriers to employment. Hope that helps.
All right. Moving on then. So we'll talk a little bit about the costs. This funding that has been provided, we're able to offer the course at $36.36 flat rate. And that doesn't, it can be 2 students, it could be 20 students. It's the same price. They get to keep the books and the material we go through, all that. There's no extra charge for that. As I said earlier, it is a match, a one-to-one match with the WIOA funds. But there's no cost to the manufacturers and no cost at all to the students. So from that perspective, it's really an affordable. I mean, if you think, if we had to offer this, just privately or whatever without the NIST funding and those funds, it would be easily double the price. So it is really a good opportunity to get folks in the classroom at an affordable rate and get training done and get them to the manufacturer. So it's very, like I said, it's very affordable for the week-long course. So the benefits, and as Amy said in the link and the emails, that it's a win-win. Well, it is. For the unemployed and the folks that are the ones that want to work in a different industry or whatever, that want to go through the course, it allows them a path to a market, a manufacturing industry that usually pays better than a lot of places. It usually has good benefits, the healthcare, the dental, the 401k. And as we heard from Sandy, every manufacturing facility that I've ever worked at, the opportunity for advancement is always there, even though these are going to be entry-level positions. And I stress this to the folks in the class all week long, and that is just get your foot in the door. I said that if you're a good performer, you're probably going to get, have opportunities for advancement. Show up on time every day, be there, do a good job, and you're not going to have to be at that entry-level position very long. And Tony's a perfect example of that. So that for the folks wanting to get into manufacturing, that's it provides a lot of different benefits. For the employers, it helps solve workforce shortages. We're providing, some degree of vetting, like, Sandy has said, the manufacturers look at these folks and if they have a stack of resumes sitting there, these folks are already on top because they took the initiative to go through this course, learn about manufacturing, show up every day for 4 days, and then show up on interview day. So to the employer, these folks kind of jump to the top of the interview list. And they get folks that have, like I said, they've got now a basic knowledge of manufacturing and how that all works. For the Career Center, it links the unemployed that's why we have career centers for the most part, right? We want to help people get jobs and provide workers to employers. So it links those two up. The unemployed that want to change, that want to go into manufacturing, it helps link them to the employer that needs workers. It also, it helps the Career Center improve performance with, matchmaking and et cetera. They have goals that they have to meet, and this kind of helps with that. For us at Missouri Enterprise, it really helps us partner with the job centers across the state and build relationships with the Workforce Development Board it gets us face to face with local Missouri manufacturers in those areas. You know, there's been some manufacturers. We want to help manufacturers across the state. This has given ABMs, so like Jamie, a reason to talk to them, a reason to go face to face with them, and possibly for us, it may create more work with that manufacturer because we provide so many other offerings. So from that perspective, you know, that's why we say it's a win-win. But with that, there's a couple of pictures from different classes we've held, and you can see the one on the right has the folks holding their certificates. That was our Friday certificate day, and then the other one is during the measuring. You can see they're using calipers and doing their gauging exercises that we go through. And it's like I said, it's several hours of that. So I've had students from all walks of life and different ages. I've had them from 18 to mid 60s, you know, and it's just been a really, from my perspective, to be honest, I was skeptical a little bit too when this program started. I didn't know how they were going to get people in the door, you know, and how many people up. Boy, after the first few classes, it's been really rewarding for me. That Friday when you see how excited they are when they get a job offer, I mean, it's a neat deal, and I've really enjoyed doing it. Every class I've taught, I've really enjoyed just teaching and being around them. So it's been good for me. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions that anybody has, and feel free to unmute and ask away.
There's a question from Tom Dustman. With the programs in the Southeast, Southwest, and West, are there plans for the St. Louis area? And Dale, I'm sure that you could, again, answer this, but we have held some classes on the eastern side of the state. It just may not have picked up as rapidly as it has on the other side of the state. So, Tom, we certainly encourage you to reach out again to your WIB. I provided that link, as well as your area job center to, again, further educate them about this program. I plan to send a link out to everyone so that they can, again, take some of the slides and understand the process and how easy that is to get started. So, Tom, that certainly is the goal.
Yeah, there's no, you know, we had one in Hannibal. We've had them scheduled in other areas. I've actually had classes in Arnold. I had one in Kennett, and so I've been all over the state. The biggest thing is recruiting students, and if they can get the students. You know, we had one scheduled in I think Kirksville, but they didn't get enough people signed up. I think they had one person or less sign up, so we didn't have the class. I think the biggest, just going forward with this program, and based on calls I've had with and Ken Chapman, is, you know, this COVID is obviously, some of the job centers aren't even open yet, you know, and the job centers are going through what they have to do to reopen. What are the rules going to be after they reopen? Like I said, a lot of this would be hard to do virtually. Some of it would be very easily done virtually, but the measuring and blueprint reading. So, you know, once they open back up, what are the rules? How many people can we have? Can they even have them in the conference rooms? Those type of things. So we're working through that. I know, I don't know if Kevin's on, but, you know, Kevin up at the CSC in Hannibal thinks we can have 9 students and still social distance in the facility he has. So those are the type of hurdles we're going to have to go through, I think, while we're going through the whole COVID thing. But I think, you know, if we can follow the rules and social distance and everything, there's no reason we couldn't hold a class. I mean, I have no problem being in there and social distancing and everything else. So I know. Right. A lot of great. Our latest hurdle. Yes. And we're not alone, right? We're all trying to figure out if our kids are going back to school this fall. So it's all a big question that we have. And us three actually had a discussion a couple weeks ago about can we offer this online virtually? And there are some components I think that we can, but again, where you really need to have that demonstration where they can work with the measuring tools, that may be a little more challenging. And I do want to talk about that here in a little bit about some upcoming opportunities for Manufacturing Day. But before I go there, a couple additional questions.
about the fees, the $3,000, 3636 for the program, who pays for that. And again, that is a joint effort. That is a match program provided by the state and the federal government through grants. So again, this is offered completely free for employers who are hiring these folks, as well as individuals who are participating in the class. So no cost, it's free. I don't know how else to say it, but it's $0 for you to participate in this program. The only one individuals that contribute to it are the federal grant and through the state.
Yes. So to expand on that, Amy, just so everybody understands, you know, so it's the WIOA or whatever, WIOA funding or whatever within the work.
Right.
So at the end of the week, the next week, I'll send, for example, I'll send Lisa an invoice for $36.36. So the job center or the workforce development board is actually paying that $36.36. I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Yep.
So from the manufacturer and student standpoint, yes, it's no cost.
Great. Are you planning a program in the Kansas City area? Again, that's Kelly Stewart. And again, yes, that's part of the reason why we're holding this today is to garner interest about the program. Again, as Lisa indicated, there's this like, is this too good to be true? A little, you know, there's skeptics out there about how this works. Does it really work? That's why we wanted to bring this webinar to life, so we could share some of these testimonials from both our manufacturing community as employers, as well as the job centers themselves, to say it's once you do one, and you know, it's pretty much, we can even put you on a quarterly basis. I know that there's some job centers that we are working with to say, hey, every quarter we want to hold this class, and it's another offering for the job centers to be able to add to their menu. So yes, we do hope to plan an event and a training in Kansas City. Same thing with Cape Girardeau. Kim, I see that. So absolutely, that's something that we want to do. We continue to encourage you to reach out to your WIBs. There's that link I provided, as well as to your job centers. And then, do you know if CARES funding can be used to pay for classes? Does funding cover meals as well? And that's from Melinda. I'm not sure about CARES funding. I would say, again, possibly visit with your community, the city manager, local county government, to see how they plan to use their allocated funding. That's certainly, I think, a great idea. And how do you utilize it with the unemployment rate the way that it is? And does the funding cover meals? Lisa, if
I can talk to that a little bit, Amy.
Right, great, thank you.
Work with each job center a little bit. Each job center is a little bit different. So we can figure the meals out, I guess is the best way to answer that. Okay. You know, so it's not a, it's a hurdle that Lisa and I, you know, went through, and then we got through it. So there's different paths to cover the meals. Sure. Even sponsorships, I know that that's been something as well that we've seen, where an employer who receives an email from us about the interview day on a Friday, they're so eager to be there and to hire and swoop in every single person that went through that class. So we've had some very generous companies that see there's value in this, and they provide coffee, lunch. It's been great to see that. So that's another option, is garnering that sponsorship for lunch and meals. Hey, again, Laclede County, to Don, yes, we want to take this statewide. It is, I mean, it's already been approved, so it can go statewide. All you need to do is visit with your job center and have them give Dale a call, reach out to the ABM in your area. And again, I will be providing all that information with those links, as well as who your ABM is in your area. This webinar will also be recorded. So if you joined us, I know we had some folks come in just a little bit ago. Don't worry, I'll make sure you get this recording. If you want to ask a few more questions, I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. Again, it's 5 brief questions, and really, Sandy, would love for you to take it. Lisa, please just answer the polls, and we'd appreciate that. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that and let the questions keep rolling in. And thank you, Lisa, for answering that question about the CARES Act funds.
I guess I could comment on the Kansas City area. We have Kansas City Workforce Development Board, and I think the thought at the time was, let's see how this rolls out.
Sure.
Hopefully there are some folks on the call from the Kansas City area. If you're a manufacturing in the Kansas City area, or for any area for that matter, reach out to your local job center and let them know of your interest in this program, because that's really the spark that it needs. I mean, we're here to serve manufacturers, although we partner with the workforce development boards. The manufacturers are in goal, right? We're a big cheerleader for the candidates that go through the program, but that's only to help the manufacturers, right? We want to make them better candidates for you guys. So the more you can reach out, the more we can help you.
Okay, I'm gonna give you a couple more minutes. Looks like I only have 16 of you out there. They're really easy questions, I promise. I know who you are if you're not answering it. That's the one thing about it. Technology. Ooh, my very soft threat. I got 3 more. So please, I'm gonna give you 1 more minute. Go ahead and answer those questions for me.
It won't let me answer, Amy. I was going to answer.
You can't. You're a panelist. But so far, 100% of you found this webinar to be helpful. So thank you. Really appreciate that. Dale and Jamie have done a tremendous job really being the champions for this. So thank you to our team. Thanks to everyone else. We're really excited to hear that. And I love that 50% of you who've answered this poll are hiring. We wanted to again ask that question to gauge where everyone is. We know that unemployment is high. However, again, from our side of the state and what we're hearing from our industries, manufacturing industry, that they are hiring. So unlike other industries, that may not be the case.
And with the correctional facilities program, I'd also like to add that I have 5 companies in St. Joe because of this program that can't wait for Dale to do this with the correctional facilities. So there are already 5 employers waiting for candidates to hire.
All right, we'll go ahead and close that poll. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Really appreciate that. Just seeing if we have any additional questions before we close here. Okay. Thanks, Kevin. And Melinda, sorry, there was a little box to see the polls, but I'd be happy to send it to you. Okay. All right, so going through these questions. Oh, great. Thanks, Melinda. So happy. I'm going to relaunch that, Melinda, for you to take it. You want to go ahead and answer that. Okay, a couple of things before we head off. Again, this webinar will be recorded, and I will make sure I send that to you along with the links to the job centers, the WIBs. Dale's contact information will be in there, as well as all of our area business managers, so that we can start facilitating these conversations. We also have, for our July webinar series tomorrow, we have an event at 11:30. And that is about collaborating with employees and improving culture and process. That is being led by Industry Week contributing editor and author John Dyer. Again, I will make sure that I send that link in there so that you can register. These are all free. All of these webinars are free, 0 cost. Just come listen in. We hope that you find some valuable information. Next week, we have working with millennials in a COVID era. So how can manufacturers monopolize on these generation of workers that are looking for jobs? Perhaps they were laid off from a service position. How can you engage with them and really, again, take advantage of that possibly remote workforce or new workforce? That is next week on the 27th at 1 p.m. Again, I'll make sure that link is included in there and free, of course, followed by a webinar on 3D printing and how it can help small manufacturers especially save money and time. And again, that's on July 28th at 1 p.m. I want to go back a little bit. I know we talked briefly about this measuring courses, and Dale can expand upon this, but in high schools especially, they're really not teaching blueprint reading. They're not teaching measuring, woodworking, all those different courses that maybe some of us took in high school. So that really is a lost skill. And we want to bring that back. So what we're doing for Manufacturing Day, and it's going to look a little different this year because we're not encouraging manufacturers to open up their facilities and have 8th graders and freshmen in high school come to visit their shop. But instead, we're offering a 2-hour virtual course, it's going to be quite fun, where Dale will provide a demonstration and teach those who want to participate online how to use some of these measuring tools so that they can truly experience what it's like to work in manufacturing and use some of those skills. So we're going to make sure that they get a little packet and find things at home that they can measure. For instance, everyone has a little device or an iPhone that we can show them how to use some of these tools to measure it and read blueprint reading. Paperclip, pencil, everyday objects that they don't have to go purchase or buy. As long as they have a tape measure or a ruler, we're going to show them how to do that. And then they'll walk away with a certificate. So again, that is going to be on the first Friday of October. If you'd like to send your employees, or send your child, send your parents, whoever wants to learn how to do it, we invite them. There's no limit there. So again, that's how does manufacturing measure up in your future? And that is to celebrate Manufacturing Day, a 2-hour virtual event on how to measure and how that works in manufacturing. First week of October, first Friday of October. That's all I have. My housekeeping is done. Well, I think that's it for today. Lisa and Sandy, thank you so much for sharing your views, your perspective, your successes, and we look forward to working with you again, and we look forward to working with all of you throughout the state to continue growing and supporting manufacturing in the Show Me State. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jamie.